Have you ever wondered if we are the most advanced generation in history or simply the most distracted? We live in an era of wearable health trackers, synthetic biohacks, and personalized DNA diets. Yet, in many ways, we are sicker than our ancestors. We are inflamed. We are tired. We are chasing new cures for new diseases. But what if the blueprint for your cellular repair wasn't written in a lab last year, but was codified 3,000 years ago in the most read book on the planet? What if the superfoods we pay a premium for today were actually the basic survival rations of the healthiest people who ever lived? Today, we aren't just looking at a list of ingredients or simple kitchen recipes. We are uncovering a biological covenant. We're going to look at 20 specific foods that clinical science is just now, thousands of years late, proving can alter your genetic expression, heal your gut, and shut down chronic inflammation at the cellular level. Stick around, because when we hit number 13 on our list, you'll see an herb so powerful it was used to decontaminate ancient temples, and modern science just found it kills viruses on contact. And number 20? It was called the gift of God in ancient scriptures. Today, modern oncologists are watching it do things to cancer cells that shouldn't be possible. I am Mr. Lowell, and this is the science of the sacred. Let's go back to the beginning. Imagine a world where one single substance did everything for a society. It lit your lamp in the dark, it cooked your daily bread, it healed your broken skin, and it marked you as a king during a coronation. Olive oil isn't just a kitchen staple or a salad dressing. It is a liquid battery for the human body. The Bible references it over 140 times. When the Good Samaritan poured oil and wine into a stranger's wounds, it wasn't just a symbolic gesture, it was clinical medicine. Modern science now identifies a compound called oleocanthal in fresh, extra virgin olive oil. This polyphenol works almost identically to ibuprofen in the human body. It doesn't just make you feel better, it actively mutes the NF-κB pathway, which is the genetic on switch for chronic systemic inflammation. When you consume real cold-pressed olive oil, you aren't just eating fat, you are performing a biological software update on your immune system. But while olive oil protects the heart and arteries, our second food protects the very breath we breathe, raw honey. In the Song of Solomon, it's described poetically as being under the tongue, giving sweetness and strength. Archaeologists have found honey in 3,000-year-old Egyptian tombs that was still perfectly edible. Why does it never spoil? Because honey is a living antimicrobial shield. It has a low pH and a very low moisture content that suffocates invading pathogens. Beyond its physical properties, raw honey contains a specific protein called defensin-1, which actively destroys bacteria cell walls. It naturally generates microscopic amounts of hydrogen peroxide on contact with human tissue. This is why modern hospitals now use medical-grade honey for MRSA infections that pharmaceutical antibiotics can't touch. But it must be raw. Heating honey past 40 degrees Celsius kills the very enzymes that give it this miraculous, life-saving power. Then we have the third food on our list, the medicinal fig. When King Hezekiah was dying from a deadly infected skin ulcer, the prophet Isaiah did not offer a chemical pill. Instead, he ordered a cake of figs to be pressed onto the open wound. This wasn't tribal magic, it was biological science. Figs contain an enzyme called ficin, which is a proteolytic enzyme. Ficin acts like a biological scalpel, actively dissolving dead tissue so the body can regenerate healthy skin. Beyond its topical skin applications, the fig is a marvel for internal health. It is extraordinarily rich in pectin, a specialized soluble fiber. In our modern understanding of the gut-brain axis, we now know that pectin feeds specific strains of gut bacteria that regulate human mood, anxiety levels, and overall immunity. In a world without synthetic multivitamins, figs were the ultimate daily supplement that sustained populations through droughts. As we move deeper into the harsh desert landscapes of the ancient world, we find our fourth superfood, the date. Dates are the original natural energy bar of human history. If you were a soldier, a trader, or a pilgrim crossing the Judean wilderness, dates were the only thing keeping you alive. They are calorie-dense, shelf-stable for years without refrigeration, and packed with bioavailable minerals. They give the human body immediate cellular energy. But the most stunning modern discovery regarding dates involves human labor and delivery. Multiple clinical trials have shown that women who consume dates in the final weeks of pregnancy have significantly shorter and smoother deliveries. This happens because chemical compounds in dates successfully interact with oxytocin receptors in the uterus. It is a food specifically designed by nature to assist in the most fundamental human experience, giving birth. Symbolically, few things in the ancient world match the cultural weight of our fifth food, the pomegranate. It adorned the robes of high priests and was carved into the pillars of Solomon's temple. Modern science is completely obsessed with its antioxidant profile, particularly compounds known as punicalagins. These massive molecules cannot be absorbed directly, but when they reach your gut, your microbiome breaks them down into a miracle metabolite called urolithin A. Why is urolithin A so special to modern biologists? Because it is one of the only known substances in nature that triggers a cellular process called mitophagy. This is a cellular house cleaning mechanism where your body identifies old, defective, and trash mitochondria and replaces them with brand new, high-energy ones. Drinking fresh pomegranate juice is literally like giving your cellular power plants a complete mechanical overhaul. But what about the food of the everyday, working person? Number 6 is lentils. The ancient text tells a famous story of Esau trading his entire birthright as the eldest son for a single bowl of red lentil stew. We often mock him for this decision in modern times, but lentils were the ultimate survival technology of the ancient world. They provide the highest plant-based protein density available to humans, combined with a massive dose of iron and folate. Lentils also trigger what nutritionists call the second meal effect. Because of their unique, slow-digesting resistant starch and fiber structure, eating lentils for lunch today improves your blood sugar response for whatever you eat for breakfast tomorrow. The complex fiber in lentils feeds the friendly bacteria in your large intestine, which then convert that fiber into short-chain fatty acids. These fatty acids travel to your liver and shut down cholesterol production. And then we reach number 7 on our list, barley. When the ancient scriptures speak of the miraculous multiplication of the loaves to feed thousands of hungry people, those loaves were made of barley. It was the grain of the working masses and the poor. Yet the irony is that these people were eating the most heart-protective grain in existence. Barley contains the highest concentration of beta-glucan of any cultivated grain on the planet. Beta-glucan is a viscous, gel-forming soluble fiber. When you eat it, it forms a physical sponge inside your digestive tract that traps bad LDL cholesterol and mops it out of your body before it can enter your bloodstream. The modern FDA has officially allowed a heart health claim on barley products because the science is so undeniable. The ancient poor who could not afford expensive meats were inadvertently protecting their hearts from cardiovascular decay. Speaking of grains, we must address a modern health tragedy with number 8, ancient wheat. When ancient texts mention wheat, they are not talking about the white flour you buy at the grocery store today. Modern commodity wheat is a 42-chromosome hybrid that was heavily mutated in laboratories during the 1950s to optimize crop yields. Ancient wheat varieties like einkorn and emmer are genetically, structurally, and nutritionally completely different. Einkorn wheat has only 14 chromosomes and has never been altered by modern industrial farming. It lacks the specific D-genome protein structure that triggers modern celiac disease and severe gluten distress. Many people who believe they are gluten intolerant are actually just reacting to a modern, chemical-heavy, mutated version of a once sacred grain. Einkorn contains 3 times the protein and far more lutein for eye health than modern dwarf wheat. As we look to the fields of antiquity, we see our 9th food, grapes. The vine is a constant spiritual and physical metaphor for life and vitality. Fresh grapes, their skins, and their seeds contain a massive concentration of a polyphenol called resveratrol. In modern longevity research, resveratrol is considered a holy grail because it activates a family of proteins called sirtuins. These are the silent guardians of your cellular integrity. Sirtuins are responsible for scanning your DNA and repairing breaks before they can duplicate into mutations like cancer. When you eat grapes, raisins, or fresh vine fruit, you are signaling to your body that times are good and it should focus on self-repair rather than just rapid growth. It is a biological signal that tells your cells to slow down, repair the damage, and live longer. This is the true secret behind the traditional Mediterranean diet. This brings us naturally to number 10, wine, used as an ancient medicine. Let us be very clear here. This requires extreme nuance. Ancient cultures did not consume wine the way modern commercial bars do. They diluted it heavily with pure water, and they drank it slowly during community meals. In a world without modern chemical water sanitation, drinking a small amount of diluted wine was a life-saving practice that killed waterborne pathogens. Modern testing shows that the alcohol and acid content in wine destroys common gut pathogens like E. coli and Salmonella more effectively than pure alcohol of the same concentration. Furthermore, the red grape skins offer high levels of proanthocyanidins. When taken in tiny medicinal doses with food, it kills the bacteria H. pylori, which is the primary cause of stomach ulcers and gastric cancers. It was a digestive tonic for a harsh world. But the waters offered their own biological covenant, which brings us to number 11, fatty fish. The coastal communities of the ancient world relied heavily on fish as their primary protein. Fish from the cold depths of the Mediterranean or the Sea of Galilee are packed with EPA and DHA, the essential omega-3 fatty acids. Your brain is made of 60% fat, and the insulation of your nervous system requires these specific building blocks to survive. Without omega-3 fatty acids, the electrical cabling of your brain begins to fray, leading directly to cognitive decline, clinical depression, and memory loss. The ancient preparation of fish was simple. Grilled over a charcoal open fire, this primitive method perfectly preserved the delicate chemical bonds of the omega-3s. Today, we deep fry fish in industrial seed oils, which completely oxidizes and destroys the very nutrition our brains are starving for. In the famous descriptions of the land of milk and honey, we find our 12th food, goat's milk. If you assume this phrase refers to modern, pasteurized cow's milk from a carton, you are mistaken. Ancient dairy came from pastured goats. Modern cow's milk contains a protein called A1 beta-casein, which breaks down in the human gut into a peptide that can cross the blood-brain barrier, triggering autoimmune conditions, mucus production, and brain fog. Goat's milk, by contrast, contains A2 beta-casein. It is genetically and structurally much closer to human breast milk. The fat globules in goat's milk are naturally smaller, meaning they do not require industrial homogenization to stay mixed. It is easily digested by the human stomach without triggering the inflammatory immune responses that modern commercial dairy causes. It is a functional probiotic food that heals the gut lining rather than irritating it. Now we reach the great mystery of our 13th superfood, hyssop. Ancient texts command, "Purge me with hyssop and I shall be clean." For centuries, modern historians dismissed this as a purely religious or symbolic ritual. However, when laboratory scientists finally isolated the chemical volatile oils of the hyssop plant, they discovered a compound called carvacrol. This is one of the most powerful natural antifungals and antivirals known to man. When ancient people used bundles of hyssop to clean a home or a temple after an outbreak of leprosy or plague, they were not just performing a superstitious dance. They were physically applying a broad-spectrum, high-level plant disinfectant to the walls and surfaces. Drinking hyssop tea acts as a powerful expectorant, clearing heavy mucus from the lungs and killing respiratory viruses on physical contact. It was practical science disguised as ritual. The ancient world was also a world of highly valued spices, bringing us to number 14, cumin. This spice was so incredibly valuable that it was used to pay religious taxes and tithes alongside gold and silver. Cumin isn't just used for culinary flavor, it is a metabolic trigger. It contains a compound called cuminaldehyde, which violently stimulates the human gallbladder to release bile and active digestive enzymes into the stomach. If your digestive system feels sluggish, if you suffer from heavy bloating after meals, or if you feel tired after eating, cumin is the biological spark plug you need. Modern clinical studies on diabetic patients have shown that regular cumin consumption significantly lowers fasting blood sugar and improves cellular insulin sensitivity. It takes the heavy sugars in your blood and forces your muscle cells to burn them as active fuel instead of storing them as fat. Continuing with ancient spices, we find number 15, coriander. The miraculous desert food known as manna was visually compared to the white coriander seed. Coriander, which is the seed of the cilantro plant, is one of the oldest heavy metal detoxification agents used by humans. Modern clinical research has found that compounds in coriander can successfully bind to heavy metals like lead, mercury, and aluminum trapped deep within our tissues. Once coriander binds to these toxic metals, it escorts them safely out of the human body through the urinary tract. In our modern industrial world, we are constantly breathing in heavy metals from car exhaust and consuming them in microplastics. Ancient coriander is a daily internal shower for your organs. Drinking a simple tea made of crushed coriander seeds relieves intestinal spasms, reduces gas, and purges cellular toxins from your blood. This brings us to number 16, a food that caused a historical rebellion: garlic. When ancient travelers were wandering in the desert eating nothing but plain food, they openly wept because they missed the garlic of Egypt. Their grief makes complete scientific sense. Garlic is the single most comprehensively studied botanical medicine on Earth. When you crush or chop a clove of garlic, a chemical reaction occurs that creates a compound called allicin. Allicin is a broad-spectrum natural antibiotic. It destroys bacteria, inhibits viral replication, and suffocates internal parasites without damaging your friendly gut flora. For people with hypertension, garlic is a miracle. It triggers the release of nitric oxide in your blood vessels, which dilates the arteries and drops blood pressure naturally. To get the benefit, you must eat it raw and freshly crushed, as cooking destroys the volatile allicin molecule. Right alongside garlic in the historical laments were onions, our 17th food. Onions are the absolute king of prebiotic fibers. They are packed with a compound called quercetin, which is a powerful natural antihistamine. If you suffer from seasonal allergies, chronic sinus inflammation, or asthma, quercetin stabilizes your mast cells so they stop releasing histamine. Eating raw red onions can significantly reduce the severity of allergic reactions. Furthermore, onions are rich in inulin-type fructans. These are fibers that humans cannot digest, but they are the favorite food of the beneficial bacteria in your large intestine. When you eat onions, you are feeding the exact microbes that produce dopamine and serotonin in your gut. Long before anyone understood what the human microbiome was, the ancient world was intuitively eating a diet that kept their gut bacteria thriving and their minds happy. As we move toward the final categories of ancient nutrition, we look at the trees. Number 18 is the almond. The ancient golden lampstands were modeled after the delicate almond blossom. Almonds are essentially cardiovascular insurance in a nutshell. They are the Earth's highest natural source of vitamin E in the form of alpha-tocopherol. Vitamin E is a fat-soluble antioxidant that coats your cell membranes, preventing them from oxidizing and rusting. Almonds also contain massive amounts of magnesium. Magnesium is required for over 300 biochemical reactions in the human body, from regulating your heartbeat to producing cellular ATP energy. Modern soil is heavily depleted of magnesium, leaving most modern humans chronically deficient. Eating a handful of almonds daily restores this mineral, drops systemic blood pressure, relaxes tight muscles, and helps the human nervous system fall into deep, restorative sleep. The sister nut to the almond is number 19, the pistachio. Historically, pistachios were a luxury food reserved only for kings and royal courts. Modern nutrition confirms that they were worth every penny. Pistachios are uniquely high in two specific carotenoids, lutein and zeaxanthin. These are antioxidants that specifically migrate to the macula of the human eye, acting as natural internal sunglasses against optical damage. In our modern screen-heavy world, where your eyes are constantly bombarded by artificial blue light, pistachios provide the raw materials your eyes need to filter that damage and prevent macular degeneration. Pistachios also have a very high ratio of essential amino acids compared to other plant foods, making them a complete protein. They are also packed with potassium, which counterbalances high sodium diets and protects the kidneys from stone formation. Finally, we arrive at the heavy hitter, number 20, black cumin, or Nigella sativa, often referred to in ancient texts as the seed of blessing. There is a famous historical proverb that states black cumin can cure everything except death itself. For thousands of years, this was dismissed as hyperbole. But in the last decade, laboratory scientists have isolated its active compound, thymoquinone, and modern oncology is completely stunned by what it does. Thymoquinone has been shown in peer-reviewed cellular studies to successfully intercept the AKT pathway in cancer cells. This pathway is the command signal that cancer cells use to survive, multiply, and ignore the body's natural commands to self-destruct. By blocking this pathway, black cumin forces defective cells into apoptosis, programmed cell death. It is a biological marvel that modern medicine is only just beginning to capture in clinical trials. We have spent this time traveling through the dry landscapes and ancient pantries of the past, but the ultimate question remains for you today. What do you do tomorrow morning with this information? The people of the ancient world did not look at food through the lens of modern diet culture. They did not count calories, track macros, or obsess over synthetic powders. They viewed food through the lens of pure biological information. Every single time you pick up a fork and place something into your mouth, you are not just sating your hunger. You are sending a massive, sweeping chemical signal to your trillions of cells. You are telling your body that it is safe, that it is provided for, that it has the raw materials to repair its own DNA, and that it has the structural tools to fight off environmental pathogens. You are speaking to your genes in a language they recognize. Science did not invent human health. Modern pharmacology did not invent cellular healing. They are only just now discovering, through painful and expensive trial and error, the staggering complexity of what was already given to us for free. You do not need a laboratory-grown supplement or a synthetic chemical compound to find vibrant health in 2026. You might just need to go back to the original blueprint of the human digestive system. If this journey through ancient history and modern biology changed the way you look at your plate, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. We do deep dives like this every single week, bridging the gap between historical heritage and cutting-edge health science. Check the links in the description below if you want to find the authentic, unrefined, and raw versions of these 20 foods that we covered today. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time.